Good afternoon, Rotarians.
Good afternoon, Tim.
Welcome to the August 28th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I am your president, Tim Lowitz. Thank you to the 50 or so of you here today during this busy back-to-school week. And thanks to Matt Kiernan and Kurt Johnson for being our greeters today. Thank you for volunteering. Appreciate that. I am going to lead us here in a moment in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test, and there'll be no moment of inspiration today because unfortunately we need to start our meeting on a bit of a somber note. As many of you know, Mike Lemaire passed away last Sunday. Mike was a member of this club for 46 years and was past president of the club, serving during the 2000-2001 Rotary year. The service details, if you haven't looked them up, the family will receive friends on Tuesday, September 2nd, from 9 to noon at the Isles Duns Chapel on Grand Avenue, and thereafter there'll be a private mass of Christian burial for the family. So today, I know we'll all miss Mike sitting in his usual seat there every week. So instead of a moment of inspiration, please join me in a moment of silence for Mike Lemaire and a life well lived. Thank you. So with that, let's stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and four-way test. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The four-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Now please greet your fellow Rotarians.
This is the easy part now. I've already said
Jordan, great to see you again.
By yourself. What you should do is go around and put like 15 dessert plates. Be like, it's reserved for me. I've had a rough week of moving. Right.
Okay. We will keep moving with the rest of our program, which should be a good one today. We have two guests today, and actually they're really more than guests. They're future members of our club because both have submitted applications to join, and I think you'll enjoy getting to know them. The first is Amy Kaler, CEO. Please stand, Amy, so everyone can see you. CEO and General Manager of Des Moines Waterworks and a guest of our Ted Corrigan. And again, Amy's applied for membership. And then the other one is April Pinnell at the same table, owner of AKW Financial Business Management. So, and she's a guest of Marty Hockenberg. So thank you, Amy and April. We do have a birthday today. It's and he skipped out on us and probably celebrating in a much more appropriate fashion. Matt Busick, past president. It's his birthday today. So if you see Matt or have a chance to talk with him, please tell him happy birthday. All right, we do have another table flyer this week. On your tables is a flyer. Thanks to Tej Dewan again for sponsoring and donating his $50 to the Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation. This is for the Ballet Des Moines, and it's learning more about their 25-26 season. And you can, any of you, if you have a flyer like this, like Tej, can donate $50 to our foundation and work with Kitty and let her know, and she will put the flyers out on the table for us. So thank you again, Tej. Speaking of Kitty in the Rotary office, a reminder, if you didn't read about it, she has been doing yeoman's work to get through this move, and as of tomorrow, tomorrow, we will be officially moved to our new office at 301 Grand Avenue in RDG Planning and Design. So let's give Kitty a round of applause. The move was a big deal. So again, thank you to Susan Judkins for helping us with that space. Okay, where in the world is Club 27? For our guests, Rotary Club of Des Moines is the 27th club of over 36,000 Rotary clubs worldwide. So we have here some of our finest. That's Kevin Kassier, Harvey Fries, Mark Lyons, and Skeet Wooten, who I don't know if you remember last time we had a golf outing earlier this summer that was partially rained out, so those four were able to sort of revive that golf day, and they were out at Blank Golf Course, I believe, last Friday. So great picture. And then in the lower right-hand corner, they got a picture of, and is Ann here today? I think I saw
It's not one of ours.
I was gonna say, did that coyote escape from the zoo? I mean, because I think that coyote it's got a golf ball in its mouth. So it was probably Skeet's ball because it was way over in the woods. Reminder, you can take us along on your travels or adventures and send us photographs, and we'd love to share them with the group. So, and now, yes. Our Rotary Law and Disorder for the week. And as many of you have probably figured out, I try to keep these in theme with our speaker if it's at all possible. So in honor of Matt being here today, and I actually talked to him about this before lunch, today brings us the story of one John Cheeks from Washington, D.C. On January 6, 2023, Mr. Cheeks bought a Powerball ticket with his kids' birthday numbers, as he always does. The drawing for the Powerball was the next day, on January 7th. So on January 7th, he checked his local DC lottery website, and lo and behold, those numbers, his special numbers, appeared on the website. He doesn't verify those numbers with any other source, just checks them on the website. He goes down to the lottery office the next day and says, "Hey, I'm here to collect $340 million. Unfortunately for Mr. Cheeks, those numbers were not the actual winning lottery numbers that were posted on the website. Those were test numbers that I think it was the local DC lottery had hired a contractor to work on their webpage, and they were supposed to post it to a in-work webpage, and instead they posted it to the live webpage, and it just so happens those were the numbers that matched Mr. Cheeks. So those were not the actual winning numbers, and in fact, it wasn't even possible because those numbers were posted the day before the actual drawing took place. But nevertheless, Mr. Cheeks kept his Powerball ticket, retained an attorney, and sued the Powerball for $340 million, saying he had won. This past June, the case was dismissed in federal district court in Washington, D.C., and it was actually dismissed before the facts were even adjudicated because Mr. Cheeks had sued, I think it was like the Florida lottery, or where the drawing is actually held on television, and in a little bit of a inside baseball, that the court in D.C. does not have personal jurisdiction over the Florida lottery. But in a local twist, and I was talking to Matt about this, the correct entity he should have sued is the Multi-State Lottery Association, which is an Iowa nonprofit association, which I believe, Matt, you are
Current vice president
the
of the
vice
board.
president of. So Matt might be looking out for a note from Mr. Cheeks because his lawsuit was just dismissed. But so that is our Rotary Law and Disorder for today. And now our own David Oman will introduce our keynote speaker. David.
Tim, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. First of all, Tim, wonderful words about Mike Lumiere.
Thank you.
He was a good Rotarian because he was a great guy. I've been a member of this club for 37 or 38 years. Who's counting? That's a lot of mashed potatoes. And I've heard a lot of speakers. And I thought over the weekend that rather than do a bio, which I can do in bits, and I will do that in bits, but I'll take a minute or two and really talk about the Matt Strawn I know as an individual, because he's a terrific person. He does belong to Rotary. I won't mention the club, but if the fellows over there look out the window, you can see the downtown Holiday Inn, right? The cat's out of the bag. Duck. Duck. So very quickly, the bio bits for Matt Strawn. He was born in Benton County, grew up on a farm, family farm. He got his undergraduate degree at the University of Iowa, his JD at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. He spent 10 years on Capitol Hill and was chief of staff to a congressman, a terrific guy who is now running for the Senate in Michigan. And came back to Iowa, and you'll hear more about all of this, but entrepreneur, Republican state chair, elected I think in 10, and we needed a new state chair then, big time, and we needed somebody who could to talk to people about how to win campaigns again, and he did that. He was a shareholder with the Iowa Barnstormers arena football team, and for the speaking of sharing, for the last middle years, I guess, in the last decade, we've talked about it. We shared an office together. We discovered that we were in virtually the same building, and I had a lot of space in my office, and he was looking to move, and so I said, just come on in, just join me. And we had a hell of a lot of fun. Politics came up from time to time, but so did a lot of baseball. Why do I share all that? It's because I really got to know Matt on a personal level. He's an extraordinarily hard worker. And I'll say this, he moved out to the lottery many years ago, but I stayed close. And Matt never worked harder than in the last 2.5 years when he beat back cancer. And we are elated with that. I also got to know Matt's family very well. He's a wonderful husband to Erin. He's a spectacular dad to Katie and to Nate. And Katie now just started college, both in college. Great young people. And I'm guessing that in about 20 years, one of them will be speaking here. Don't bet against me. But the dad is here today. Matt is here with us today in his role as CEO of Iowa's Lottery, and he may mention this, I may steal this, but I've been blessed to know all three, Ed Stanek, Terry Rich, and now Matt. And our lottery has been in good hands for 40 years, and never any better hands than Matt. He also has an even bigger job running the Powerball Association network for the entire country. So with that, I want you to welcome our speaker today, Matt Strawn.
I don't want to say anything to ruin what you all think about me after that introduction. My membership in the AM Club notwithstanding. So it's so much fun to look around the room, and it almost is a snapshot of my personal and professional life. You know, I see good friends who, you know, our daughters went to school since they were kindergartners at Holy Trinity, you know, over in Beaverdale. Folks that were alongside me in my political life, folks that were beside me in the dalliance in the rough and tumble world of arena football, and now in this kind of very unique way to serve one state. And it's incredibly humbling when you think about the fact that there have only been 3 islands that have been entrusted with this privilege to be our state's lottery CEO. And I think about it, you know, that very background. I can assure you tonight that there is no child in this state that is laying their head on a pillow, dreaming of the day that they can one day run their state's lottery. But I've come to find out, and we'll talk more about this, you know, as we get into this, and I'm really looking forward to questions. Just that variety of background, that legal education, that time in the political space, the time in government, the time in business and entrepreneurship, the time in public affairs and marketing. Come to find out, I use every one of those things in this role. And I do so because, you know, as you will see, we have come a long way here in the state from August 22nd, 1985, where that first lottery ticket was sold. Now, there's probably a few of you, in addition to David, that remember that first $1 scratch match and win ticket that was sold after the state decided that it was going to create a lottery for the purpose of generating revenue for important state public policy priorities. And as you can see, that was the one and only lottery product that existed at the time. And you know, you think about the evolution of the lottery, you had to redeem that ticket where you bought it. For example, as well. Just one small change over the years, but that first ticket right there sold at the Iowa State Fairgrounds on the first day of sales. So hang on to that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of the lottery, not just as a business, but as a large-scale enterprise, and how we effectively try and manage risk on behalf of the state with this enterprise and asset that the state has. So at the end of the day, we are statutorily mandated to responsibly raise revenue for important state causes. And we are statutorily mandated to do so in an entrepreneurial manner. So notwithstanding that nexus that we have to the state enterprise, we need to operate the lottery like a business. So this gives you a snapshot of revenues and net income back to the state over that 40-year run. So if you look at that, you know, a couple of years into the lottery's existence, $85 million top line gross revenue yielded $27.6 million in net income back to the state of Iowa. Our most recent fully audited fiscal year, we're still truing up the books for fiscal 25, close to $500 million in lottery tickets were sold in Iowa in fiscal 24. Our net rate of return back to the state on that's about 21.5% to 22% in fiscal 24. So just a hair over $106 million in net income returned to the state and those statutorily mandated beneficiaries that we have. So where does the lottery fit in the broader gaming landscape in this state in terms of both gross revenue and net benefit back to the state of Iowa? So as you can see here, again, the lottery, $489 million gross revenue, 106 and change net income in fiscal 24. The 19 commercial casinos, soon to be 20 once Cedar Rapids comes online. The commercial casinos in the state of Iowa, that is non-sports betting numbers in fiscal 24, $1.72 billion. And I know the casino industry uses a little bit different terminology as it relates to GGR and handles, but just using very, very basic math, $1.72 billion in revenues. Net tax revenue back to the state of Iowa on that, $344 million. And then in the last few years, of course, we're all aware of what has happened with the introduction of sports betting in this state. That gives you a snapshot in fiscal 24. $2.6 billion was wagered in this state on sports. A little over, just a hair over 90% of that is online, as opposed to going to the brick and mortar casino. And the state tax revenue from that $2.6 billion wagered on sports in Iowa, $14.3 million. So that gives you just a little sense of what the landscape looks like in this state based on decisions policymakers have made related to various gambling options for our citizens. So, specific to the lotteries portfolio, and how has that evolved from that $1 scratch ticket that was sold back in August 22nd, 1985? We've got 4 primary product categories at the lottery. Of course, that first product was a scratch ticket. The scratch ticket remains the engine that drives revenue for the Iowa Lottery. So in fiscal 24, 62% of total revenue was attributable to the sales of the scratch ticket category. That's actually a little low. A typical year is a little closer to 65, 66% of all revenue comes from scratch tickets. Lotto, close to 30% in fiscal 24. That's your Powerball, your Mega Millions, those type of games. We do have a handful of retailers. We've got 2,500 licensed retailers across the state of Iowa, ranging, as I see my friend Dick there, ranging from the Hy-Vees of the world to the independent-owned convenience stores, small, much more independent petroleum retailer type that are still sprinkled around the state, particularly in rural Iowa. So to give you a sense of scale on that, when it comes to the sale of that lottery product, and this does not matter whether it is a scratch ticket, a lotto ticket, a pull tab, an Instaplay ticket, across the entire Iowa Lottery portfolio, here's how $1 spin breaks down. So say tonight, Greg Edwards, you're really enticed by that $950 million Powerball jackpot that's going to be Saturday night. That $950 million Powerball jackpot that's going to be Saturday night. You're thinking, okay, I got to get in on that. I can't wait to stand with Strawn with that big check and show my buddy Terry Rich, right? So when you spin that $2, here's how that $2 breaks down. So let's break it down even further. $1 spent on a lottery product in Iowa. At a minimum, and this is what differentiates when you think of the value proposition of the state's lottery relative to other entertainment options, whether in the gaming space or not, 93 cents of every dollar stays in Iowa in some capacity. Across our entire product portfolio, the price structure yields about 64 cents on every dollar gets paid back out to a player in a prize in fiscal 24. Like I said earlier, about 22%, 22 cents on that dollar goes back to the state is our net income return. That retailer that sells the lottery ticket, we've got the licensed agreement there. There's a commission for the sale of that lottery ticket that stays right there in that community with that retailer. So on average, that's 7 cents that stays with the retailer that sold the lottery product. And 7 cents goes to our operational costs. But let me break that down, from a business perspective even a little further, because our real operational cost runs a little closer to 4% annually. So 2% of that, when you go into any lottery retailer, you see the big terminal, the screens on the counter, you want your Powerball ticket. All that technology is provided by a third-party private vendor. So our contract with that vendor allows for 2% on every lottery sale. So take 2 cents off that 7 cents, and then an additional 2 cents on that goes to our promotions and advertising. And by statute, the lottery is allowed to spend up to 4% of gross revenue annually on advertising and promoting our products. We don't come close to that. My philosophy has been, and this is consistent with my mandate from both the governor and the legislature, just by way of a little bit of backup. So this position needs to be appointed by the governor, and then I am required to be confirmed by a supermajority of the Iowa Senate every 4 years. So just went through my latest confirmation process, which is always a unique process to go through, but went through that this past spring. I'm incredibly proud, especially given some of my professional background, to have unanimous approval from the Iowa Senate for the 3rd time going through the process. But 2% of our spend goes towards marketing and promotions, and if you think about how much of that 2% stays in Iowa, think about your broadcast networks, your local radio stations, and then those sponsorship and partnerships we have, like the Iowa State Fair. David, of course, we're out at the Iowa Speedway doing things. We're doing things with the University of Iowa, Iowa State University. Heck, we just sent some folks to Dublin a couple of weeks ago as part of a promotion that we were doing with cycling football. So a tremendous amount of lottery spend ultimately stays in Iowa to some degree beyond just those returns that we give back to the state. So speaking of those returns back to the state, where does the money go? Where does the money go with our net income when you play the lottery? And this has evolved over the years. I've got another set of this presentation I do sometimes. It's much more trivia. And one of the questions I asked is, where do you think the money goes when you play the lottery? And it takes folks a long time to get to the state's general fund. Because over the years, it backstopped the bonds for Vision Iowa, it had went to education, it had went to problem gambling treatment, it had went to Main Street streetscape type projects. It has evolved over the years, but that is actually a decision for our lawmakers to make. We actually have no discretion at the lottery whatsoever where the net proceeds of the lottery flow. That is prescribed to us by the legislature, which sometimes makes it a little tough, right? Because we hear from many organizations, all worthwhile, around the state looking for lottery support. So we have to tell them to talk to their legislature. But beyond the general fund, $103 million of that 106 a couple of years ago, or last year, went to the state's general fund, which of course covers every priority under the sun that the legislature and the governor agree upon. But the one that we talk about the most, the Iowa lottery, and the one that is most tangible, I think, that most Iowans can wrap their head around, is that the Iowa lottery is the sole source of annual revenue to the Iowa Veterans Trust Fund. And I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but the Iowa Veterans Trust Fund is a fund of last resort in this state for veterans in need. It is administered through the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs, and there is a group of veterans that comprise the Iowa Commission on Veterans Affairs that actually takes a look at applications that come from each of the county's 99 veteran service offices. And when you think about a veteran who has exhausted their state or federal program benefits, what's left? So oftentimes these things cover dental repairs. Sometimes if you have a younger veteran who needs car repairs to be able to get to their work. Those are the sort of things that are funded through the Iowa Veterans Trust Fund. And when it was initially established, it was just like every other public program in the state. It was subject to annual appropriations. So all of you, I'm sure, have had your time working with the legislature, and you know there's always competing priorities for funding in any given fiscal year. And the money that flowed to it would ebb and flow. And they didn't have the necessary resources to fully fund the need in the state. So, and this predated me, but they went to the lottery and asked the lottery if they would be the sole source of annual guaranteed funding. So the first $2.5 million that we make every year in net income, that's the first check we write. It goes straight to the Iowa Veterans Trust Fund. So it's an amazing program. If you do know any veterans in need, please direct them to the Veterans Trust Fund. And then we do have, I'll just talk about it briefly, a very, very modest amount flows to survivor benefit funds. A number of years ago, there were a few instances in smaller communities where police officers were killed in the line of duty. It was a community that didn't have insurance benefits that it could offer to the surviving family members. So they turned to the lottery to actually provide the funding for that. A couple of years after that, there were, I believe, 2 corrections officers that were killed in eastern Iowa in the line of duty. So the lottery now provides the insurance benefit for surviving family members, for peace officers, corrections officers, first responders that have died in the line of duty. So, it's interesting when your phone rings. It's the governor, and I look at this room, and I'm sure there's many of you that have gotten that same phone call from the governor in many respects, either asking for something or asking you to consider something. When that phone call came toward the tail end of November 2018. As I joked earlier, running the lottery, I bought 1 lottery ticket in my life, right? One, right? And actually, it's a funny story. I can tell you exactly who it was, where I was. I was at Prairie Meadows because Prairie Meadows was hosting the Iowa Barnstormers annual season ticket party, and the Iowa Lottery was a sponsor. And they had a booth set up there, and I said, well, I've got to be a good partner. So at least, all right, let me buy a lottery ticket while I'm there. So I did. I was a $20 lottery ticket. I won $20 on that ticket. And I put that $20 bill right back in my pocket. Which now I would encourage you to reinvest in that if you want to do that. But as the governor and I were talking about this, and before I started my conversations with state senators, through my appointment or approval process, you think about your why. Like, you don't just do something because your governor has asked you to think about it. And is I was thinking about my why, and the timing didn't work for a host of reasons. It didn't work because the ages our kids were at. Nate, our oldest, was just getting ready to start at Dowling. My consulting business was thriving. Everything was going great. But the more I thought about it, it's the Iowa part of this. And I've led a very public life, and we're teaching our kids that you don't necessarily have to run for office, but you need to be a public citizen, and you need to get involved. And for me, this was an opportunity. If I was going to do this, my North Star, and this first time we had an all hands meeting, and I'm kind of trying to explain this to my new colleagues. Everything we do and every decision I make is based on how are we putting the Iowa in the Iowa lottery. We're not a lottery, we're not the lottery, we're the Iowa lottery. And that Iowa has to modify every decision we make. Every decision we make from a marketing and promotion standpoint, every decision we make, and I'll go through this in a minute when it comes to operational integrity. But first, when we take a look at the promotions that we're putting into the marketplace, and everybody, we joke about the, almost $1 billion Powerball jackpot and dreaming. Okay, everybody's dreaming just a little bit. What would you do if you hit that puppy? Yes, cash prizes, carry all the attention. But at the end of the day, the state's lottery, for those who choose to play it, also has a unique opportunity to put Iowans at the big Iowa moments. And what are those big Iowa moments that they otherwise couldn't get themselves into? So for some of us, we do these things, very routinely, but there are a lot of our fellow Iowans that don't get the opportunity to go see a game at Kenny Stadium. They don't get the opportunity to actually go down and have their feet touch the field at Jack Trice as the Cyclones are running through the steam onto the field. They don't get the opportunity to actually see a concert in the grandstand at the state fair. So, maybe you've seen this, if you've been watching closely over the last few years, but we have leaned much more heavily into when we give experiences away, we want those experiences to be here. We're not putting people on a plane, sending them to Vegas, to Caesars. We want people to have those big Iowa moments. So, speaking of Iowa, the other thing is we look to innovate. And the Iowa Lottery, as I described a minute ago with the 4 product categories, it's a very traditional lottery product category mix. And our distribution channels are very, very traditional. You can't buy a lottery ticket on this device. That's a decision if policymakers and the governor decide that that's a tool that they want to give the Iowa Lottery, great, we'll execute it and run with it, but until that happens, we've got to be very traditional in how we approach the marketplace. But it doesn't mean we can't be innovative and think about how we can work with Iowa retailers to meet customers and consumers where they are. So here's just one example of that I'm actually really proud of. I'm proud of our team. The Iowa Lottery and Fairway, earlier this year, we became the first lottery in the United States. This is actually happening I believe in Canada in a couple provinces, but we're the first lottery in the United States that actually allows someone to purchase a Powerball or a Mega Millions ticket as they're going through the checkout line in a grocery store. Sounds super simple, right? But the technology that went into this, 3 years of testing, think about it this way. We got this $1 billion jackpot, happens to be at Fairway now, we're not quite in Hy-Vee yet. You're buying your groceries, maybe you've got one of the kids with you, you don't want to truck over to customer service lane to grab that lottery ticket. Right there, boom, you can press one button on the point of sale system. As soon as you pay your grocery bill, it'll spit out your lottery ticket on the same point of sale system. If you need split tender, it'll do split tender. So it's a small thing, but it's an example of how we are trying to work collaboratively with our retailers here in this state to provide them a little bit more incremental income, but also to provide greater convenience to Iowa residents. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this before we get to questions, because this really is the heart of what we do. And I'm incredibly proud in every conversation I've had with a policymaker in this state, whether it's the governor, whether it's a Republican legislator, whether it's a Democratic legislator, to a person, they have let me know that I am not judged on the basis of the revenue that we are driving for this state. My primary KPI for our state's leadership is, are we operating the lottery with integrity? And that integrity has a couple different meanings. One is just the integrity of how we market and promote our products in the marketplace. But also, it's the integrity of the product itself. So when you think about what the lottery is and what a lottery product is based on, it is based on a foundation of trust. That at the end of the day, there's somebody that's walking into a Casey's in Southwest Iowa today with $2 and is dreaming about hitting that Powerball jackpot. They have to believe they have a fair shot to win. Same with the $5 scratch ticket. The minute someone doesn't believe that they have a fair opportunity, they're not going to buy that product. And if they don't buy that product, those good causes that legislators want us to fund are ultimately what's going to suffer. So everything we do needs to be done through that prism. So from an integrity standpoint, I just want to touch on a couple things so all of you are aware of some of the things that are a focus for us at the Iowa Lottery as it relates to the integrity of operations. As I mentioned, we've got about 2,500 licensed retailers around the state. On any given year, between 20% to a quarter of those retailers get an unannounced undercover compliance check from one of our security investigators, all of whom are former law enforcement. And they're checking for a number of things, right? Compliance with state law, compliance with terms and conditions of your retailer license. But we've got our undercover folks out there all the time. Another thing, and I could give a 20-minute presentation on how seriously we take our responsibility to make sure Iowans know that there are places to turn if you or someone you love has a problem gambling in a responsible manner or playing beyond their means. Over $3 million, we spend significant money in advertising our product. Well, we turn around and go right back to those advertisers every year and ask them to donate ad assets and ad inventory back to us, everything from streaming to outdoor digital billboards to traditional broadcast and radio ads. And we turn around and we give that inventory to the Department of Public Health. Well, I guess it's no longer the Department of Public Health, it's the Department of Health and Human Services in the state for problem gaming advertising. I think about $3 million over the last few years that we've secured. Last year, I don't know if you had a chance to see this ad, but we had a gentleman that we featured in it. We actually produced it. We spent money to produce it and then turned it over to public health. A gentleman from Burlington that did have a problem. He had a problem playing the lottery responsibly and was telling his story because he didn't know where to turn for help until he found Your Life Iowa, which is an offshoot of 1-800-BETS-OFF. Incredibly powerful, but we take very seriously that responsibility. And one, we haven't announced publicly yet, we will here in a couple weeks, but we actually, for the first time in the lottery's history, have been globally certified at the top level standards for a responsible gaming program, where we have a panel of third-party auditors actually take a look at what we're doing and whether it does meet industry best practices. Incredibly proud of that. The last one I put on here, we all undergo background checks. Some of us undergo more stringent ones than others. If anyone has ever been through an L1 background check from the DCI, I don't recommend it. I'm talking 3 years of tax returns, 3 years of credit card statements, 3 years of bank statements. They want to know not only your history with the criminal code, Tim, but they want to know not just your immediate family, your siblings, but your in-laws. Yeah, David, you try calling your father-in-law sometime and asking, hey, buddy, anything we need to know about? But my favorite story on this, and it's why I have this in here, is, and you may have even gotten a visit from the investigator, David, because we office together. So it was toward the tail end of my investigation, and I get a text from my old neighbor. We live in town now, but we were up in Ankeny at the time, and I get a text from my old neighbor up in Ankeny, and it's a photo of the business card of the DCI agent that was assigned to my case. And all it says, along with the picture, is, hey, Maddie, this clown was in the neighborhood asking questions. Don't worry, I didn't tell him anything. So a quick call to Aaron. I'm like, all right, you still have the email list from the old neighborhood. Yeah, we better let him know it's okay, that this is all part of Matt's new job. But they do take it incredibly seriously. And it's fascinating, too, that background check, how the risks have evolved over the years. David, you think about when the lottery was first set up in the 80s, and it was happening all around the country at the time, a lot of concern about organized crime infiltrating the lottery, and that was a lot of the concern with the background. And today, it's much more about identifying financial vulnerabilities, and where would you have the ability to potentially blackmail someone who is in a position to affect the outcome of a lottery prize. Oops, here we go. All right, real quick, and then we'll get to some questions. So what are the things that, it'd be too dramatic to say, what keeps me up at night? it's issues with society and my kids that keep me up at night. But from a professional perspective, what are those threats? When I talk about managing the large-scale enterprise risk of what has now become a $500 million annual revenue enterprise, like everything, maintaining cultural relevance. As attention spans have become splintered, and the ability to reach people where they are has become incredibly difficult, especially at a time where there's loss of trust in institutions that deliver messaging. We've got to be much more creative in how we actually reach consumers with our messaging, and of course competition for the discretionary entertainment dollar. From a security standpoint, this one's fascinating. There were stories earlier this year that you may have seen in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal regarding well-resourced syndicates that will actually do one of two things. They will come into a jurisdiction and attempt to buy out a game, and they use, essentially their big brain quants that do the necessary math involved to see if they can effectively shorten their odds. Let me give you two real quick examples and answer is how we are combating this. By practice, you can go on our website right now. Every scratch ticket we have in the market, we will tell you how many top prizes are available in that prize structure. Let's take a $20 ticket. Let's say there's 10 top prizes of $250,000. Every time one of those gets hit, we will update our website. So a player knows, okay, there's 2 left of the 10, there's 1 left of the 10. So what these groups will do, they will scour public information to identify how many top prizes are left in a game, and then they will do their own calculations based on the time the game has been in the market and try and estimate what the remaining game inventory is. Now they take it a step further. They then try and leverage state public information law to try and get actual game inventory data. So we will hear from these groups and they will want to know, take game X, how many tickets of this game are left in your inventory in the central warehouse, and who are the top 20 retailers in Iowa that have this game in stock? And then they will make a decision whether or not they will come to the state and try and buy out that remaining inventory. So I think that's a problem. One, it gets back to what I talked about earlier. It erodes the faith and trust that Iowans have in their game, that somebody doesn't have a fair shot to win. So a ton of credit to the legislature and the governor. This year we actually passed a law that allows us to withhold sensitive game inventory data from a public records request. But that is happening across the country. There was a foreign syndicate that actually pooled money and went into Texas. They had a Powerball type game called Texas Lotto. $1 game, 1 in 25 million odds. The jackpot rose to $83 million. Getting very quickly, you can see where this is going. They came into the state and actually bought out every combination, but they manipulated technology to be able to actually produce 25 different play slips that otherwise physically couldn't have been printed. That, of course, is in litigation. But it's one example of how we need to continually stay ahead of those threats when it comes to both technology and very well capitalized groups. So similar to that, Tim mentioned I'm chairman of the board of the Global Powerball brand, so we continue to think about how we need to protect that brand because that's our highest gross margin product for the state of Iowa. 50 cents of every dollar actually goes back to the state from the sale of the Powerball ticket. And then, like all of you with businesses, rogue actors. Somebody hacks into our system and all of a sudden, say somebody wins the Powerball Saturday night and we can't tell you what state it's in. That'd be a real problem for what is a $1 billion brand. So those are the sorts of things. Iowa Lottery by the numbers, all the fun we've had over 40 years here in the state, and we had just a little bit of fun at the state fair by setting a Guinness World Record, which was a ton of fun. I tell you what, watching Iowans, it's the fair, right? Watching the fun Iowans had engaging with our brand and giving them, again, the big Iowa experience. We're not talking a Powerball jackpot, we're talking a $5 scratch ticket in their hand, a gold commemorative coin, and a t-shirt that lets everybody know that they were part of a record-breaking event. It's just a fun way that we're able to say thank you, for Iowans responsibly embracing their lottery. So I probably went way over time, Tim.
No, you got a couple minutes left for questions.
But happy to answer any questions. As you can tell, it is an honor. It is an absolute honor to serve. It is a very unique way to serve the state of Iowa. It's an incredible privilege, and there isn't a day that I'm not humbled by realizing that not only am I the third Iowan to ever do this, but I also understand that this is a product that that is something that needs to be marketed, managed responsibly. So I just appreciate everyone for the warm hospitality today, even for a Friday morning Rotarian. So as we're no longer homeless anymore, we're now over at Wakanda.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got that. But happy to answer any questions. Yeah, Dick.
Vending machines, how many do you have, and do you see that growing at all?
Yeah, dramatic increase in self-serve machines, and you'll, traditionally, you usually see those in the high-volume retailers, like your major Metro Hy-Vees, for example. I think the current ones we have 24-bin machines, dispenses all the lottery products. It is fascinating to see and this is from our own research, because we don't know this actually at the point of purchase, the breakdown from an age demographic standpoint when it comes to utilization of self-serve. Not surprisingly, younger people, and I think about my kids from the standpoint of, they hate to get on the phone, right? They love to be on the phone, but they hate to talk on the phone. It's the human interaction. Younger demographic doesn't necessarily want the over-the-counter experience. An older or more mature lottery player does. So there was concern that the introduction of self-service machines at retailers, there was a threat that then the retailer would say, great, I can have my counter space back. They don't need to have tickets on the counter. Nope, two completely different customers. So we've dramatically increased. So you'll start to see those in Fast and Fresh. So they're moving to the C-store space now too. You'll see those in Fast and Freshes, you'll see those in Quick Stars. We're actually set to put some in Come and Goes before the Maverick acquisition. But yeah, it's just a different player preference. And now that it's debit enabled as well, I think that has helped. And just from a payment standpoint, just know it is illegal. It's one of the things our investigators look for on their compliance checks. It's illegal to pay for lottery on credit in the state of Iowa, as it should be.
Well, do you have a
Yep.
question? Yeah.
Two quick questions. One, if Edwards wins the Powerball lottery and he chooses the annuity option, could you explain how that works? Question number one. And question number two is, one of the things that happened with the Iowa lottery is that he tipped it.
Yep.
And I understand he's now out on parole. Can you follow up on that?
Sure. Well, now I'm not as well versed on the actuarial tables as probably some of you are, but I would recommend to Mr. Edwards to take the cash value. No, I'm kidding. I kid. Love you, buddy. So no, I'll get back to that in a sec. But first, the Eddie tipped in. Absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure you probably had Terry Rich here over the years who's talked about that saga. So I inherited two trailing lawsuits from that the Iowa Lottery was a party to. One, not surprisingly, it was a class action for anyone that had played Hot Lotto during that time period of the fraud. An honest opportunity to win was taken from them. The second one, though, was more fascinating. The lawsuit was brought by the gentleman who won the next subsequent jackpot, and his claim was, but for the fraud, his jackpot would have been much bigger. Fascinating. That one ended up settling, probably not the most sympathetic. I think they didn't want to take that one to jury. But here's what's interesting, the reforms that were put into place. So for those of you that don't know, very top line, the Multi-State Lottery Association that oversees multi-jurisdiction lotto games, including Powerball. So I'm chairman of the board of Powerball, and then I'm the vice president of the board for the Multi-State Lottery Association. 39 states comprise muscle. And they had someone on staff that was an IT security expert that was actually building random number generating machines. Powerball and Mega Millions still have the traditional ball drawing. Powerball, as you noted, is in Florida. Mega Millions is drawn in Georgia. But those lesser lottery games were drawn with random number generators. And what Eddie did is he built malicious code into that random number generator that only on a certain number of days, and there were a couple other combinations that had to hit, that it reduced the odds, and don't quote me on this, but it was reduced the odds of a jackpot being hit from 1 in 5 million to 1 in 200. And Eddie got greedy. He would, before he'd hand, he'd tell his brother or his brother's girlfriend or his network of buddies to go out and play these numbers. But he got greedy, and it was the quick trip up off of Northeast 14th, where he walked in. And the great story about this one, but for the audio, that's how they got it. It was a group of multi-state lottery employees and lottery industry employees that recognized his voice. So what are the reforms after that? That's the important part, right? No more designing and building random number generators out of the Multi-State Lottery Association, separation of duties, everything that you would do from a business process standpoint, your own businesses, is now being done there. One of which was the creation of an audit committee that now has an independent chief internal audit executive that actually I'm the past chair of the audit committee that reports directly to me and not to the executive director of the organization. And just a series of reforms that were put into place because it's a tremendous black eye, for the industry. And I can tell you in this state, most people assume that you work for the Iowa Lottery, not the lottery vendor. But from an annuity standpoint, back to your first question, we've not had anyone that has actually exercised that option in my time there thus far. But we do. We actually, we'll work with our banker if that's what someone wants to do. But a good example would be cash value of Powerball Saturday night is $950 million. I think, gosh, I haven't looked at what cash value is. Or I'm sorry, take the annuity, not the cash value. So the cash value of that tonight, it's probably got to be close to 425, I believe. And that and the annuity factor largely is based on interest rates, is how we make that calculation. So, sorry.
No, you're
We're able to
good.
get there.
Matt just said he'll stick around for other questions too, and if Edwards wins the Powerball, drinks tonight at the social are on you.
Kelly's little nipper.
Thank you, Matt. We appreciate you sharing your time and insights. Thanks for all you do for the state, and thanks, as you put it, for putting the Iowa in the Iowa lottery. I like that. Upcoming meetings. Remember, you and a guest need to RSVP by Wednesday at 9 a.m. Think about someone you can bring to join our club or would be interested in a speaker. Next week, again, I've mentioned this a couple times, we have Beth Getz coming next Thursday, September 4th. If you are bringing a guest, please email Kitty by tomorrow, if possible. Again, we're trying to close guest registration tomorrow just because of the popular program, and we'll have a number of guests next week, and we're trying to get a handle on that with the holiday weekend coming up. September 11th, we can't meet here at the Embassy Club, so we'll be meeting at Broadlawns, and CEO Proctor Lerman will be our speaker. We do have tours available before and after, and they're working to set up some tours, I think, for our group that will be there for lunch. But again, check the bulletin for some RSVP deadlines, because it'll be a little earlier given the catering logistics there. So watch your newsletter and try and comply with those deadlines, and we appreciate your cooperation, and Kitty does, I'm sure, in doing so. And then finally, September 18th, Sherry Gupta, the founder of Culture All, will be here. So a great next couple of programs on the slate. Don't forget tonight, Rollins Mansion open house. We have 30 plus or so of you signed up. It'll be a great time for some fellowship. They're hosting us from 5 to 7. Sign-ups were technically due last week, but if you are able to make it, you still have some time and your schedule cleared up, please just send Kitty an email so she can let the Rollins Mansion know, but we'll be happy to have you. Appetizers will be for free, and there'll be a cash bar available, so come out and join us. Quick announcement, Randy Worth, reminder of the Wheels Fellowship, Friday, September 19th at the Allbach Collection in Ankeny from 2 to 4, so any questions you can reach out to Randy. And then, as we've been talking about, our Thank Fall event, the 3rd annual, September 25th at Jester Park Nature Center. Thanks again to Rich Leopold for hosting us out there. What's Your Smokin' Barbecue, music by Dan Medeiros, very family friendly. We do not meet that day because we can't meet here at the Embassy Club, so if you can, plan to attend that event instead. In the bulletin you saw there was, we were looking, it was a separate email, I think, that went out. We're looking for a couple $500 sponsors. We have secured one, but we still have one open, so if you're interested, or you or your business is interested in sponsoring that event, please let Kitty or I know. We'll put you on the invitations. You'll get a chance to speak about your business at the event, and we need to get those invitations out next week, so please let us know sooner rather than later. All right, with all those announcements, again, if you have questions for Matt, he'll be around for a little bit. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for being a vital part of our club. Thank you to our guests and future members. Have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend and stay true to the good. We are adjourned.